On today's Community Wednesday, let's break down the AS Val. The AS Val has been regarded as one of the best solos and duos close-range weapons because of its insane TTK potential. And even after the nerf, I still think it's in the top 3 weapons for close range, and this video will explain why. In the build, we're using the stowable skillet stock, operator foregrip, 30 round mag, stippled grip, and sleight of hand. If you're extremely aggressive, you can swap stippled grip for a 5mm watt laser for that better hipfire, or the operator foregrip for GI mini reflex or another red dot sight. Now this build may be a lot more different than what you're used to, but when we compare the normal build to this build, you'll see why I chose it. So let's get into the stats, starting with mobility. Its ADS time is at an amazing 200 milliseconds. This is better than many SMGs, and that's all thanks to not having that long barrel. Its reload and reload ad times are 2.25 and 1.86 seconds, so make sure to leave at least one bullet in the mag. And its mag cap is 30, so that will be a bit hard to do. Its movement and sprint speeds are pretty good compared to all the other weapons, but it is not quite Cold War level. So if you're running it with a long-range Cold War assault rifle, you're probably going to be wanting to run around the map with that instead. Its ADS strafe speed is pretty good, but not quite yet at SMG level. And its sprint out and tac sprint out times are above average, but not again as good as an SMG's. And its stability is 1.5T, which is extremely great and will let you use your weapon at much longer ranges. But its bullet velocity is really bad and worse than many SMGs. However, I want to point out that if you use the longer barrel, it is barely any better here. Couple that with its much slower ADS time, that's the reason I do not recommend using the longest barrel. And lastly, it has a rate of fire of 14.9 rounds per second or 892 rounds per minute, which is really great for TTK, but really bad to conserve your ammo. So it gets a mobility score of 39. Its recoil really isn't that bad. It goes a bit to the left and then at a diagonal line. Depending on your stability, it may sometimes move left and right, but it is mostly controllable. Because it fires so fast, and I'm not a big fan of the iron sights, it is a bit difficult to control at longer ranges. But for the average person, you should be able to use it to around 27 meters, which is really great since this beats out many of the close range SMGs that it will be competing against. So it gets a recoil score of 27. In the damage department, it has a drop-off range at 32 meters. In the first damage range, its headshot and upper torso TTKs are absolutely great. There's basically nothing that can match it, not even the OTS-9. Its lower torso and limb TTKs are average, but are still in line for more sniper support weapons. So as long as you hit at least 6 upper torso shots, you're going to be beating pretty much everyone. In the second damage range, its headshot and upper torso TTKs are above average and competitive against most other weapons, and its lower torso and limb TTKs are once again average. And while this second damage range is pretty good, it's really not that important because at this range, you should be switching to your more long range assault rifle. And also because of its recoil, it'll probably take a whole magazine to land enough shots to down someone. So it gets a damage score of 75. And when we add up all the categories, it gets a final score of 141. This is a really good score for a weapon, especially one that's supposed to be only for close range. So how to use the AS Val? Pretty much, like I said, use it between 0 and 32 meters, but you're going to be wanting to run around the map with your longer range Cold War weapon. And by that I mean a Cold War assault rifle or the Swiss K31. And while it would be nice to run it with an LMG, the LMG speed is way too low, and even though the AS Val is a bit faster, you're just going to be left behind when you're trying to cover large distances with your teammates. You also don't want to pair it with a long-range sniper rifle, since you typically start using that around 50 meters. So between 30 and 50 meters, you're at a pretty big disadvantage. So when you're moving through an area, make sure you have long corridors or long lines of sight for you to use your long-range weapon. If not, you will have to switch to your AS Val, and that means you will be a lot slower. This obviously doesn't mean to stick to really open areas where you can get sniped, but play it safe. And when you do end up in a cramped area, just switch to your AS Val and clear the area, because your mobility may be slower, but your TTK will be much faster. Seriously, I can't say too many negative things about this weapon. Its mobility may not be that great, its mag size may not be that great, and some people may not like its recoil, but its damage range with its insane TTK extends further than the range you can actually control to recoil. This means you'll be beating pretty much every SMG, whether it's meant for close range or sniper support. In solos and duos, unless you can't handle its recoil or want a super mobility build, there's no real reason not to use the AS Val. And even in trios and quads, if you have a coordinated team and nobody's down, the AS Val is still a pretty good choice. So if you learn to skillfully use the AS Val, you'll be rewarded with one of the greatest weapons in Warzone. So that's the AS Val. Have you used it recently? Do you love it? Or are you one of the people that thinks it should be nerfed to the ground? And if there's any weapon, build, or part of the game you want to break down, let me know and you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it or it's helped you in any way, let me know by leaving a like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.